the only way I would look at this is to discount what he's proposed, but to acknowledge that although the solution he's come up with is pie in the sky, he is highlighting a problem to which neither Israel, nor the Arabs, nor Europe, nor the United States have anything like an answer yet.
Andrew Neil is here with us now. He's joining the Times, of course, at 1 o'clock today to make sense of world events, but we thought we'd try and get him to help us make sense of one of the biggest events going on today, which, of course, Andrew, is Donald Trump's comments overnight. He reckons to have a strategy for the Middle East. What do you think here? I mean, some people say this is just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. Some people say, well, hear him out. You know, maybe there's some sense here.
Well, it is difficult to know how to handle Donald Trump, and we're back in the world of 2016 to 2020, where you never knew what you were going to wake up to. What has he done next? And of course, this has happened this time with Gaza. I mean, you can follow Mr. Trump down these rabbit holes and end up in the darkness, and nothing ever happens. I mean, I think it's pretty much mission impossible that America takes sovereignty over Gaza, which is what he's talking about. It's a demolition site, he says, rebuilds it and turns it into the Riviera of the Middle East. There is a Riviera of the Middle East already, of course, it's called Dubai. And whether America could do all that, it's a 15, 20-year program. Would any subsequent president really be interested in doing it? And there's a little problem of what do you do, meanwhile, with the 2 million Palestinians who've lived there. He says they can go and live in Egypt and Jordan. I can assure you, Egypt and Jordan do not want any share of 2 million Palestinians. Jordan in particular finds the Palestinians rather destabilizing, and they're already a majority there. So I think, you know, that's going to go nowhere. I mean, this is a president who got elected on saying, we don't want any of this neocon stuff anymore. We don't want America to be trying to solve every problem in the world. But now he's trying to make a land grab for Greenland, trying to do a land grab for Canada, the Panama Canal, and now Gaza. I mean, if I was Scotland's Isle of Skye, I'd be a little bit worried that they could be next. His mother comes from there. He might quite like the idea of absorbing the Isle of Skye into America as well.
Andrew, what's the answer then for British politicians? We've had Steve Reid and Priti Patel on today, and they, of course, trotted out the we're not going to give a running commentary. Because if you're right, he's just sort of saying things that come to the top of his head, he doesn't really mean them, then maybe the answer is to say nothing and it'll go away because it's impossible. What's the answer for them?
Well, the answer for them is to say it's not going to happen, but they're not going to say that because they're with this charm offensive with Mr. Trump at the moment. And I mean, it's kind of sickening in a way, the oleaginous approach that they've got to Trump at the moment. They're terrified to say anything in case he slaps tariffs on us as well as Europe. And I think it's a bit of a pathetic that Britain should be carrying in this way. Our elected representatives should say what they mean. And it is clear in my mind, if they can't articulate it, it is not British foreign policy to allow America to have sovereignty over Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. That is not our policy. Where I think you take Trump seriously is that he does highlight a really big issue. What is to be done with Gaza? I mean, it's been a nightmare since Hamas took over. It culminated in that appalling attack in October, just over 18 months ago. And you've got so many displaced Gazans now. The place is a demolition site, he's right. Where do we go from here? How can you rebuild it with the 2 million Palestinians still there and with the prospect that Hamas will still be in charge? What is the point of rebuilding it if the terrorist group is simply going to take over again? So the only way I would look at this is to discount what he's proposed, but to acknowledge that although the solution he's come up with is pie in the sky, he is highlighting a problem to which neither Israel, nor the Arabs, nor Europe, nor the United States have anything like an answer yet.
And I imagine, Andrew, this is something you'll be talking about on your programme today. What else have you got on the agenda at 1 o'clock?
We're going to look at this mess the Starmer government has got itself into over the Chagos Islands, where even cabinet ministers are now briefing anonymously to the media that it's a nonsense and mad. How can we find 8-9 billion for Mauritius when we can't even afford winter fuel allowances for old age pensioners? So we're certainly going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at the problems Rachel Reeves now faces as we head to the next fiscal statement. Her headroom is gone. So that's a real problem. Now we know why she looks so miserable most of the time. And we're going to be looking at what is going to happen to the price of oil and gas over the next year or two. But other than that, nothing serious or important.
Well, we'll be tuned in at 1 o'clock for you, Andrew. But before I let you go, we've had a couple of fact checkers for you. Two people who've messaged in to say Trump's mother came from the Isle of Lewis, not Skye. What do you say to that?
Oh, well, I'm glad then. I better change the script. I knew it was a Scottish island, and I knew it was up in the Hebrides. And I'm very grateful for the fact checkers. I just hope Mr. Trump wasn't listening, because he might be invading Skye now on a false premise. So if you could, I better go and call the White House and say it's Lewis, not Skye.
Yeah, see if he wants to join us in the last hour of the programme, if he's around, if he's up and about.
I'll put a word in for you both.
Thank you. That is Andrew Neil, who, of course, will be here on Times Radio at 1 o'clock.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. Occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding. And I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were dumped into our country. They're gang members. I can tell you, I spoke to other leaders of countries in the Middle East, and they love the idea. They say it would really bring stability, and what we need is stability. Yes, sir, please.
By the majority of the people. We don't want it accepted by one half of the people and not the other.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. We're getting them out at numbers that nobody can actually believe. And every single country is taking those people back. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
Peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia is not only feasible, I think it's going to happen. I think if we had another half a year.
I love Israel. I will visit there, and I'll visit Gaza, and I'll visit Saudi Arabia, and I'll visit other places all over the Middle East. The Middle East is an incredible place, so vibrant, so it's just one of the really beautiful places and with great people.